I think I should probably explain some things about this that were not put into the public domain at the time in the Rose Garden, because that whole episode was definitely a major disaster for the government and for the COVID policy. So I'll explain something about it and then and why we got things so wrong. In the autumn 2019, I had to move out of my house because of security threats for about 6 weeks. On the 28th of February, when I was dealing with the COVID problem, on the Friday night, I was down in Westminster, and my wife called saying there's a gang of people outside saying they're going to break into the house and kill everybody inside. She was alone at the house at the time with our then 3-year-old. After that, I spoke to the PM and the Deputy Cabinet Secretary, Helen McNamara, about the situation, and it was suggested that possibly I either move my family into a government accommodation or move them off to family. On the 22nd of March, the story happened, which the lady mentioned earlier, about that fake quote from me, basically implying that I was happy for everyone to die, which led to further problems. After that weekend, I then said to my wife, right, we've been discussing it for a month. We've got to get out of here on Friday. So before the whole thing happened, with the Prime Minister being sick, my wife calling up on the Friday and everything else, it had already been decided that I was going to move my family out of London, regardless of the COVID rules. That was discussed with people in the Cabinet Office and with the private office. Now, what happened is, because of this, we kept the whole thing very quiet. Almost nobody in Number 10 knew about it for obvious reasons, because I didn't want the same problems to pop up at my parents' house up in Durham. When the story then came out, the Prime Minister and I agreed, when the first story came out about me, much of the story was completely wrong. It suggested that the police had spoken to me about my behaviour because of the lockdown rules and whatnot, which was completely false. The police had only spoken to me about security issues, but the media presented it as if I'd been talked to by the police for breaking lockdown rules. The whole story was crazy. The Prime Minister and I agreed that because of the security things, we would basically just stonewall the story and not say anything about it. And I was extremely mindful of the problem that when you talk about these things, you cause more trouble for yourself. And I'd already put my wife and child in the firing line on it. So I said, I'm not talking about this, we should shut our mouths about it, and the media stories are all basically, loads of it is wrong, and ignore it. Prime Minister agreed. Then on the Monday, he was under so much political pressure and media pressure that he said, this line won't hold, we're going to have to do something about it. Now, at this point, I made just a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake, which I'm extremely sorry about. What I should have done, in retrospect, is I should have called my wife and said, listen, you and our boy are going to have to get out of London again. I'm going to have to just explain the truth about this whole thing. Get out of London, we'll hold a press conference. Instead of that, we had a kind of chaotic situation in Number 10 where the Prime Minister said, we're going to have to do something, you're going to have to explain something. And I said, I'm not explaining these security things, otherwise I'm going to have everyone mobs back outside my house. So I ended up giving the whole Rose Garden thing, where what I said was true, but we left out a kind of crucial part of it all. And the whole thing was a complete disaster. And the truth is, and then it undermined public confidence in the whole thing. The truth is, when the Prime Minister said on the Monday, we can't hold this line, we're going to have to explain things, if I just basically sent my family back out of London and said, here's the truth to the public, I think people would have understood the situation, and it was a terrible misjudgment not to do that. So I take, the Prime Minister got that wrong, I got that wrong. We both made a terrible horlicks of it in a very odd circumstance on the Monday. So that hopefully explains that situation and makes clear that I know that my misjudgment on it caused huge trouble. And I deeply apologise for it.